good morning. I'm just so glad to see you all are doing well and that you're with us. So let's get started with our agenda. So I will be the presenter today. I'm going to be doing a presentation on the Mac Apple Mail app. And again, we're following this back to basics. So it's going to be stuff that some of you probably know, but some of you may not know. It'd be more the things that I've learned on how to set it up correctly and properly. Let's start up with news items. Rick, you want to start us off about some of the security updates that are out there for the Apple community?
I will do that. So there was a major security flaw found in WebKit. And so if you haven't noticed, there's updates for iOS, there's updates for iPad OS, there's updates for Mac OS. And I would highly encourage, well, there was one for Watch OS.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was security, but there was an update for that too.
Yeah, it's not so much security on the watch, but there is an update. But I would highly encourage you to apply those updates if you haven't done it yet. It's really important, especially the ones for the iPad, iOS, and Mac. So you want to grab those, install them. I know updates make people a little nervous, but this one's been out for almost a week. It should be secure. It should be good to go. So I would install it as soon as you can.
Do you have a number on that?
Well, I got the beta on mine, so I can't tell you no more. But it was 0.1 on top of whatever it was. So I don't remember the number. But if you got an update out there, you'll know because it'll be the ones on your unit. So just look for updates. It'll be there.
And for those of you where there wasn't an issue with the operating system, there was a Safari update that addressed some security stuff. And that was for High Sierra on up, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there was one for High Sierra, and there was a separate one for that they applied with the update to the Mac OS Big Sur.
Yeah. Okay, so patch them if you want to be secure. Next item. Last month, I had mentioned about Elon Musk and Skylink and how this stuff was in beta mode and they were rolling it out and people were having a fairly good user experience with the equipment that they were sending out and the type of reception, send and receive rates that they were getting with it. Well, it's no longer in beta. They are officially now in commercial mode. You don't have to sign up for a beta test. That basically, if you're in the US, the northern part of the US, they are ready to service you as a customer with the proviso that they don't quite have enough equipment to satisfy everyone. And again, this would be about $100 a month is what they're charging. They've also pumped a bunch more satellites up into orbit, and they've opened up their beta testing in Australia and New Zealand and parts of South America. So they're going global with this. So just be aware that that's going on. The other news item that's also related to Elon Musk, you may have heard on the mainstream news that there were some weather disruptions of the energy grid in Texas. And apparently most of it had to do with natural gas lines getting frozen and not being able to move stuff around quickly, and et cetera. Elon Musk has a battery operation that has not been in the news that's being built in Texas. And apparently it's a duplication, a replication of what he did in Australia. So there's not a whole lot about it right now, but it looks like the governor of Texas talked to his new resident, and his new resident explained that he already had this project in process and building. So it'll be interesting what he's doing on that. Since I don't have Steve Jobs to follow anymore, I follow Elon Musk. With all the flaws that Steve had, Elon just evokes the same sort of response from me. Other things, cancellations going on. Rick Cartwright reminded me that Apple has discontinued their large HomePod. They still have the mini going for about the mini HomePod going for about $99. This is an audio. It's sort of like a Sonos. It's streaming of music. It's voice activation. It's got all of that stuff of like a Sonos and a Google uh, rolled in together. Anyway, but the big one they've discontinued. They're continuing with the smaller ones. So if you want a big HomePod, you might want to grab one while they're still available. The other thing that has been discontinued is the iMac Pro. Now that's the high-end iMac that had the Xenon processors in it. So this would again lead me to believe that there's something coming from Apple with new iMacs and possibly a new kind of Mac Pro, probably using these M1 chips. But again, it's all rumor, unsubstantiated gossip at this point. But one other thing I noticed is that the Intel iMacs, the 21 inchers, are now in very short supply. And it looks like production ended with those. So again, it looks like they're draining the pipeline with the old product to make way for new product that might come in. The meeting that I talked about, Apple was going to have a online meeting presentation somewhere around in mid-March. That got pushed back to March 23rd at this point, and nobody really knows what exactly they're going to be presenting at that meeting. So, again, they like their secrecy and they prefer it that way. With that said, that segues into my next news item, which is that we've got a former Apple engineer who is being sued by Apple because he was releasing information to journalists about products. And he also showed up at some product meetings where he had specifically been told not to attend. And it looks like it's the car project, whatever that is that Apple's doing. And they're suing them in federal court and they're suing them in state court. And we'll see what happens with that one. And I mean, they unleashed the hounds on this guy. Okay. Moving right along. Item that was not in the news except for financial news, and that is Apple is committed to building a new CPU research and development facility in Munich to the tune of $1.2 billion is the initial investment. But they're talking about, if things go as they wish, pumping in an additional $3 billion of investment. So we're talking almost $5 billion they're going to be putting in. Wow. This would be an R&D facility for developing new and better M1 Apple Silicon chips, but also developing new manufacturing techniques. So it wouldn't be just manufacturing chips, but maybe some of that stuff that Apple's done with shaping of metal, using high pressure water to take out those unibody aluminum frames, and also some material science stuff that they're working on. So that's a very, very big investment that Apple chose not to make in North America, but to make in the Federal Republic of Germany. And with that, I'm going to say I'm out of news items. Does anybody else have any news items they want to add? Going once, going twice. Okay. Oh, one last thing. I've gotten my first COVID shot. Have not gotten my second yet. Okay. So progress on the home front too. All right. Anybody else for news items? Going once, going twice.
Now that the meeting started, do you want to talk about meeting next month?
Oh, okay. Now that we've got everybody here. When we started talking earlier today, the Leadership Council, we all got on to the Zoom room ahead of time, sharing information back and forth. Don Bennett, who's a member of the group, and he's also on the staff at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church, sent me an email in early March that their fellowship hall is now available for outside groups to use again. There's some policy and practices that they need to communicate with us. But our thought, the Leadership Council's thought, is that in April, Leadership Council would show up at the church to do a meeting from there. So it'd be sort of a combo. We're there in person and we're also Zooming it to the memberships. And then once we've got the whole thing sort of scoped out, that we go for an actual open to general membership of the club meeting in May at Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. And again, it would be the standard stuff: social distancing and masks. We would require that you have a mask on. But again, if things go well with our little technology experiment in April, we would also be Zooming that meeting. So it'd be a in-person and Zoom meeting so that you can choose how you prefer to meet. Okay, so anything else that I forgot to tell the membership? Mark, Georges,
Nope.
Kathy? Oh, we've also decided we're going to go back to the old method, which is if you're not paying your dues, we let it go 2 months. And if you still aren't paying your dues, then we remove you from the rolls. So we're trying to get back to our standard membership policies again. No trying. That's where we're going. We don't try, we do. Okay, let's see. Anything else I've missed, Rick, Kathy, Mark? Okay, very good. All right. Next item would be, do we have anybody with stuff that they're selling or that they're giving away or that they're looking for?
Yeah, I do.
What you looking for, Ray?
I'm not looking for, I'm willing to give this away.
Okay.
I have an unopened ink for a HP printer, and it's the 564 XL ink cartridge, and what do they call it? The blue, the cyan. My Hewlett Packard printer went south a while back, so anybody that'd like to have this, will figure out some way to get it to you.
Okay. So what I'd
I'm
ask you,
holding up
Ray,
a picture. It's disappearing in the background.
It's because
Too
you got the
much blue on
background.
okay, Ray, what I'd ask you to do is send Mark just a quick note, Mark Georges, a quick note with, the HP number of the cartridge. So if nobody wants it before the meeting ends, we can just put it on the after meeting notes so people know who to contact.
Send that to
Mark Georges.
Mark Georges.
Mark Georges. He's waving his hand.
Ambassador.
Yeah.
And do it sooner than later, because I send out that post-meeting email fairly.
You don't know what an ambassador is. If you are an Apple recognized user group, you delegate one of your members to be the official representative of the group to Apple. That person is called your Apple ambassador. And the person who currently serves in that role is Mark Georges. Okay. You have some other former Apple ambassadors. Mark Cobb was the Apple ambassador at one point. I was the Apple ambassador at one point. Okay, but that's also when they required us to go out and proselytize to the heathen about the wonders of Apple.
You still do that?
Yeah, but now I don't have to stand on the corner while they're picking up their IBM computers and tell them, no, go back. The wages of sin. All right. Anybody else have anything that they've got that they want to get rid of? They want to share to the members? Going once, going twice. Okay. If you need any USB printer cables, I've got about 40 of them right now. They're in various lengths. I've got short ones that are 3-footers. I've got some that are 6 foot. some that are 8 foot, and some that are like 12 foot, which is really the length of the maximum length if you were doing USB 1 back in the day. So if you're interested in USB printer cables, send me an email. Be more than happy to make arrangements for you to pick up or for me to drop off. Okay, so we're done with for sale and wanted.
Hey, Rick, you still have your Apple Pencil?
I sold it.
Rick?
It's good. It's good.
Okay. I can take
Okay.
it off then.
Okay, good. And Richard Kugler, did you get that extender taken care of? Got on mute, Dick.
Yes, I did. I delivered it to his house. I've forgotten his name, who said he was interested in it.
Okay,
And
cool.
Okay.
so I haven't heard
I'll take
anything
it off.
negative from him since. So I assume everything worked out okay. And he's not here with us today. So
Okay,
wasn't
and then
able to ask
just
him
a
directly.
reiteration to you, Richard. I now know 2 people who are using Skylink. One's in Wisconsin, one's in Michigan, and formerly all their internet was being done with cell service, and they've been very happy with it. So I'll just mention that.
$100 a month plus 500 for the equipment, though, is a steep cliff to climb.
I understand. My job is to present possibilities to the members.
Yeah.
And my members can reject my suggestions with no cost or harm. I do my job. You folks, your job is to make wise decisions, figuring out, whether what I'm saying makes any sense or not. Okay, with that said, you okay, Dick?
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
cool.
If you give me a second, though, I do have a story to tell you a little bit about
Absolutely.
experience having to do with this cellular coverage. I experimented with a Verizon hookup for a short period of time because I was led to believe that Verizon had a better version of what I was having with AT&T now for several years. Well, unfortunately, Verizon did not. I only found out about the details after I had already signed up for a kind of an experimental attempt to use their system. The speeds were great, but they don't have a plan like AT&T did, where I have a SIM card in my modem, which is treated by AT&T just like a phone. So every month when I get a bill, it shows data, voice, and text, even though voice and text are zero, and it's all data. The only thing that Verizon has is basically a hotspot or a non-phone item like a laptop or an iPad that's got cellular connectivity. And as a result, there's either a 15 or a 30 gigabyte cap for the month, after which the speed drops so precipitously that it becomes virtually unusable.
Okay.
So I had to quickly regroup, cancel the Verizon experiment, and revert back to my AT&T plan that I've had for a number of years. So even though it's still not what I would like, it's still usable, and I can live with it, sort of thing. But
when you went back to AT&T, did they communicate anything about additional fiber rollout in the Dayton metropolitan area?
They would not commit. Neither AT&T nor Verizon would commit to when their fiber optic network was going to expand, if ever, into our area.
Okay.
Now there's a lot of talk on the internet about 5G cellular service to rural areas. It's not the fastest 5G, but it's the longer distance version of the 5G. It's kind of I guess, a tweak to the LTE in a way, but neither of those are available in our area right now either. Although I've signed up for them to send me communication when it is going to come here. So
okay. And then as a side note, Congress is currently looking at $58 billion for rolling out high-speed internet in rural areas. You know, it's a repeat of what they've done in the Carter, Clinton,
Pass.
and maybe Bush eras that never really finished. And AT&T has committed to doing a massive new fiber rollout, and I'm wondering if the two are connected somehow. You know,
Hey, Bill.
yes, sir.
Bill. So there was a report on 9 to 5 Mac this morning that would be really interesting for Richard. They were talking about this exact issue. And Verizon is in the middle of launching 5G home internet, which is exactly what you were talking about. This is a step up above LTE. And I think in the next week, T-Mobile is supposed to make their offering public as well. I'll post that article in the chat. If you click that link, there's a thing in there where you can click and put in your address, and it'll tell you if it's available in your area, but there's a bunch of other detail in there. I've got 5G on my phone, and I'll tell you what, the speeds rival my speeds on my broadband at home. And I would be very happy with that at home if I could get that reliably in my house at a reasonable price. With you know, the data caps would be the question. The speed is fine. The data caps would be the question. So I don't know. I think this is going to be the future. I'll be shocked if this doesn't happen, but I'll post that link. Anybody that wants to get it can grab it. I'll post it in the chat. And it was just an interesting article. And it looks like it's, again, this was on 9 to 5 Mac this morning.
Okay, good to know.
Bill? Hey, Bill.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm currently right now streaming on my T-Mobile hotspot. It's a brand new thing. It's a 5G hotspot.
Yep.
And I have 100 gigs for $50 a month. And I asked them what happens when I run out of 100. And she said, you simply are deprioritized in your area, which means you may or may not see a reduction of speed. Well, I don't know because I haven't gone through 100 gigs, and $50 is very reasonable, but my speeds are way better than my HughesNet, way, way better. And it's at 50, it's a lot cheaper. And that's all I've got out here.
HughesNet, they're in bankruptcy, if I remember correctly? Or they declared bankruptcy in the last 2 months?
Well, if I could get my husband off of having to have what he thinks is a landline, I would be done with HughesNet because Frontier cannot guarantee me consistent phone service. It's unbelievable how bad it is.
Yeah. Just FYI, Frontier is currently being sued by the Attorney Generals of New York, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Tennessee for various promises they made. Well, excuse me, they were not promises, they were legal commitments that were never fulfilled. So,
wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah. Okay, so with that said, again, it looks like when you have strong competition start to come into the market, the established providers suddenly become motivated to provide better service. All right, so anyway, moving right along. I think if we don't have anything else that was for sale, wanted, or news, I'm going to treat all the LTE and the new cable stuff as news. We're going to move on to help desk. Do I have anybody who has an issue they'd like to bring up? And we'll start with
Lenore says.
Lenore's got her hand up.
Thank you. I just have one question. Years ago, I must have had a flatbed scanner because I was able to take some Kodak slides and digitalize them. But now I have, over the years, I've changed to other printers, and I find that I'm not able to do that with some new slides that a relative gave me. So I guess my option is to go to CVS or send them to Kodak, or does anyone have information on how I get just about maybe 25 or 30 slides, Kodak slides, as a digital entity?
Okay, I know Costco has a very reasonable plan to do that.
Okay.
I'm not sure about Sam's Warehouse Club, though. Okay, John, do you have something to add about that?
Well, yeah, I took some old slides that the pictures we had hanging in our house had gotten faded. And I took them down to, there's a camera place used to be had several stores, but the only one right now is down in Springboro at Austin Landing. And
Oh, Dodd,
I'm trying to think of the name of the
Dodd,
place.
Dodd Photos,
I don't think,
DODD.
no,
DODD.
Yeah.
is it Dodd?
Yeah,
Okay.
Not
It used to
Dodd,
be.
Dodd, DODD,
yeah.
Delta Oscar.
And they were able to print those. I would assume they could scan them for you also, because that's basically what they got to do to print them. But they did a good job on remaking some 1970s vintage Kodachrome slides I had into pictures.
So
So-
that would be fine, because then I could scan them myself after that. Thank you.
Now, Lenore, you're up north, correct?
Yes.
I believe there's still a Dodd photography store up in Fairborn.
Really?
No.
Am I wrong?
Bill,
No,
I
I don't
think
think
I think the name of the place was Click Camera.
No, Click changed names. Dodd bought them.
Yeah.
Oh,
There-
okay. All right.
All right. Thank you. I'll check it out.
Okay, anybody else have an issue they want to bring up to the membership? Going once, going twice. Okay, if nobody has an issue suitable for help desk, then I'm going to ask Ray to talk about his experience with his M1 Mac Mini that he purchased.
Thank you, sir. I'm tickled to death with the speed and so forth, my little M1 there, but these updates to Big Sur and so forth, the minute I see it, I do it. And I upgraded to Big Sur 11.2.3, I think it was. And I couldn't get it to upgrade on my Mac Mini. That's the M1. So after spending, well, let's put it this way, if I was getting minimum wage for each hour I was talking to him, I could probably buy a very good dinner someplace. I spent 3 days with Apple Care. But how do I explain this doggone thing? I couldn't do the update. It kept telling me, giving me an error message. I don't have the message in front of me, but there was always this error message that it couldn't complete the upgrade. So I got a hold of Apple Care, and I wound up with senior advisors every time. But we finally got the upgrade and updated the operating system. And then I couldn't print to my brother printer. It's a laser printer. So we tested everything we could, and I thought, well, this thing was working fine. Something must have gone haywire with the printer side of a laser print, of a little scan and everything else. But
Hello?
I think
Yes.
Phyllis, mute yourself for a minute.
Phyllis,
Phyllis, mute.
Yes.
Put your
Mute.
mute on. We don't want to listen to your phone call. Bye.
Are we okay? Let's see if I can get this straight. Anyway, we did all kinds of, does this work? Does that work? And so forth and so on, figuring that the printing feature of this multifunction machine had gone haywire. But I tried to scan something and print it. Fine, no problem. So I came over to the computer I'm on right now, which is an Intel, a MacBook Pro, and I could print, I could do everything as the way it used to be. So finally yesterday I got a hold of Brother and I said what my problem was. And they fooled around with it for a while. And finally they just said, well, we don't have a driver for that.
Okay.
And that was, so one of the questions, I guess is part of the help desk now. is there anybody doing like they do for scanners, printing drivers or creating drivers for this kind of situation? Because I don't think Brother is going to bother with I bought that multi-function machine in 2006, so I don't think they're going to mess around with something that old.
Okay. What has happened historically, the printer manufacturers dropped the ball back when Snow Leopard was released. And Steve Jobs was still alive back then. And he basically sent his engineers to those printer manufacturers and had them living out of RVs until there were printer drivers that worked appropriately with Snow Leopard. I don't know if Tim Cook would make that sort of a commitment now. Not necessarily that, anything against Brother, but if it's something that's more than 10 years old, they're the companies just don't support them anymore. All right. So with that said, there used to be, okay, this is going back to like last century. There was a company that their whole business was to create printer drivers for, you name the printer, so that they would work with all of these new microcomputers when they were coming out. I don't know if they're still in business. I don't know if they still do that. I'll just put it down as a research item. So what you're basically looking for is someone that's comparable to ViewScan is to scanners, that is to printers.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, and I assume you don't want to go to Linux. I'm kidding. Sorry.
Bill, I have seen, after doing updates, that I've had problems printing also, and the solution was deleting the printer and just putting it back into the system.
Okay, so let me restate what you said. To basically go in to the system preferences, to fax and print, and then
Right.
deleting out
Delete.
the printer queue
Right.
and all of its settings, and then setting the printer back up correctly.
Right.
Not deleting the physical printer, but rather just the printer queue. So Ray, I'm assuming you already did that, where they come in and they say remove the printer, reinstall the printer.
No.
Okay, try
I'm not
that one,
even
Ray.
following what you're talking about.
Okay, Ray, what you would do is you'd go, you're on your Mac, the M1, you go into system preferences, you look for where you set up printers, you go in there, you click on that printer that you currently have that isn't working correctly, the Brother.
And delete it.
Right, and you know how you have the plus and the minus. Instead
We've
of
done
hitting the
that
plus,
several times over.
okay, and
I had help.
Okay, but didn't get you anywhere.
No.
Okay, all right. So
no, it's just simply the driver for that specific printer they're not furnishing it. I guess
okay.
it's too old. Now that is part of the evil empire. Because why should something, if you have a Model T Ford and it runs perfectly and you have no trouble with it, why should they deliberately make it obsolete that you can't use it even though it's still in like new condition?
Well, I don't know. I suppose I'd have to go to a Ford dealership and see if I could get an air filter for a Ford Model T or Model S and see if they
Try
laughed
finding
at me.
parts for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that was just
Spend the $79 and get a new printer.
Oh, I have some. Is Bill Howe on with
Yeah.
us?
I'm
Bill
here.
talking.
He is, but he's hiding.
Yeah, you've been helping me with this. And I said, boy, I'd like to be able to, using FileMaker Pro, I'd like to be able to sit at my computer and make changes on FileMaker that's over on the new computer. Well, everything's in the cloud. So any change I make on my MacBook Pro changes it's sharing the same file. The only thing I do not do is let Thelma be working in that same application and at the same time I am. I
Hello?
don't know what would happen.
Okay. So a very important point that Ray just brought up, and that is you have to know where your data is.
And it's all in the cloud.
I have a similar question.
Okay, go for it, George.
My wife has a Brother embroidery machine.
I hear
It has a slot for a memory card whereby you enter the information, the particular pattern is going to embroider.
I'm on a
Okay.
Zoom meeting.
Brother supported that on
They're just chit-chatting
Windows machines,
other stuff right now.
but not
They're
on the Mac.
help.
So all these years, I've been trying to get a little driver such that you can,
Meeting,
do elementary file exchange, loading, offloading.
Okay,
Uh,
George,
yeah.
before you drag us into the weeds with you, the easiest thing to do if it's an embroidery machine, especially if it's one that was supported with Windows 95, Windows 98, those
Yeah.
legacy operating systems, is to install on your Mac VirtualBox. It's from Oracle. And then you install a virtual machine in that running Windows 95 or Windows 97.
Okay, well, let me continue here. So I went to the internet and there was somebody else had what appeared to be what I wanted, the driver. So I was started to download this app, and my Avast interceded and said there was something wrong about this internet, this connection, and I shouldn't download it. Does anybody have any, in other words, there was it must have been something like malware.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any comments about that? And should
Yeah, don't do it.
Okay, don't do it.
Seriously, there's so much stuff out there that they say you're going to download a driver or something like this, and it's all just a bunch of garbage to get malware into your computer. So you got to be very careful about what you want to download.
Okay. Thank you.
They-
that
They
answers
don't
my
care
question.
what, they take whatever you're looking for and say, yeah, we got it. And then you download it and then bam, especially on the Windows machines, they're going to hammer you hard on those things. So.
Okay.
Okay. So I take it, George, you're not open to trying a virtual machine.
No, I've actually tried a couple of the other virtual machines, and they for instance, I tried Crossover, and
Yeah.
Crossover is fine, but it doesn't support that particular thing. And all I want to do is a very, very simple. I just want to see what's on the card.
Yeah.
And replace it with something else.
Yeah.
I don't want to do any fancy calculations or manipulations or anything. I just want to be able to service the memory card on that machine.
Okay, George, I'm going to regret doing this. Send me an email with the make and model of the embroidery machine.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll talk.
All right. I'll do that then.
Okay.
It might be tomorrow
I've been
before I get
down this
around to it.
rat hole before, because my sister has a serger. It's not quite an embroidery. It's
Yeah,
do we
a
have
serger
anybody
too.
who understands sewing technology in the group? Okay,
Barbara?
so Barbara, what's the difference between an embroidery machine and a serger and a sewing machine?
Okay, a sewing machine, you can do straight stitching, decorative stitches, and the embroidery units attached to that sewing machine, at least
Okay.
what I know. A serger is something different commercial seamstress use those for overcasting and sewing the seam at the same time.
Okay. Okay.
More for clothing, I would think.
Okay. So the most complicated of the group would be the embroidery because you've got some sort of computer technology driving the sewing machine.
Right, right. And
Okay.
there's usually software that goes with that embroidery machine. So
Yeah. And it's usually legacy and it's on formats that, types of media that we don't have anymore. Compact.
I don't know if my software is compatible with my machine. It's
Yeah.
like Husqvarna. So
Okay.
that's all
Husqvarna.
I know.
They make so much stuff: chainsaws,
Yeah.
axes, sewing machines, trucks. Just amazing. Husqvarna. I just enjoy saying that. Okay. Thank you, Barb.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, George, I'm giving you that homework assignment. Okay.
Yes.
And that is make and model of the embroidery of the machine. Okay.
Right.
And then for extra credit, tell me what operating system she was using or you were using to program it. Was it 97, 95? Was it Windows?
Okay.
Or was it some, OS2 Warp, whatever it was? Okay, we're right at 10:43. Do we have anybody else that had a barn burning help desk issue they wanted to bring up to the membership?
It was CPM.
Control process.
It makes me sad. Gary Kildall. If he had only not crashed. God, the computer world would be so much different. Anyway. Okay, with that said, I'm going to say that we're finished with the business part of the meeting. Mark Georges, would you walk us through what our process is for raffles?
I can. Kathy has a spreadsheet. I assume that she's doing it on a spreadsheet or she's making a tally of when the people log on to the meeting, she will assign them a number. I have a little thing here full of the numbers. I will pull a number out and Kathy will match that up with the person. And that person, well, there'll be two of them. That'll be the winners for the raffle.
Okay. How do we proceed from this point?
Okay, I guess I pull a number. Kathy, you ready? You're muted, Kathy.
Just a sec.
There you go. Okay, first number I pulled was 7.
Ah, John Scotto. Scott, how do you pronounce your name? Scotto? Oops,
Scottco.
Scottco.
Oh,
Okay.
geez.
Your
I can't win in the real meetings. These are nice.
And the second number is 5.
Oh, yeah, right. Mark Georges. Good job.
Fix,
You're kidding
Good
me.
job.
The fix is in.
fix,
What? I didn't know my number was 5.
fixed.
See,
Well,
that's
let
what
me
they
tell
just
this
split it up
time.
between Kathy and I. I don't know who's got what numbers.
Question, Mark, did you buy something you would like?
Not yet.
It's a gift certificate, right?
Okay.
Dog food.
Okay, I'm going to declare the rest of you as being overly suspicious and Mark Georges is an official winner. Moving right along, do we have more numbers to pull?
No, that was it. Well, what
That was the
number
two.
does Bill have? Kathy?
Herrick had number 1.
Okay.
Okay, so what do the winners get?
A $50 gift certificate from Amazon.
Ah, okay, okay. So it's John and Mark. Very
Yep.
good.
Yay.
Last week it was Kathy and Phyllis, not this Kathy, the other Kathy.
Okay,
This
Okay.
time it's Mark and John.
okay. So what I'm going to say is let's take a short break. Do people want to chit chat amongst themselves? And in which case I'll make it 15 minutes. Otherwise, I'll just say 10 minutes.
Just make it 11 o'clock.
Make it 11 o'clock? Okay, fine. We reconvene at 11, at least I will return at 11 o'clock to do our presentation on Apple Mail for Mac OS. Okay, thank you. I will see you at 11. Okay, we good now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
All right. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Apple Mail for Mac OS today. This is all part of our back to the basics. And why am I not? Hold on a second here. There we go. Okay. So when I talk about Apple Mail, the Apple Mail client, the application, the program, most of the people I'm talking to just know it as the postage stamp. Well, there's another alias for it, and that is hawk wings, because it's a hawk with his wings wide open on that stamp. So what are we going to cover? We're going to go through some email terms. Yes, I know. We did that last month. We're going to do them again. We're going to talk about how you go about adding email accounts to Apple Mail. We're going to talk about how AOL, Yahoo, AT&T often require third-party app passcodes, so it'll work with your computer or your iPad or your phone, and how sometimes they let you get to the security settings and sometimes they don't, and why they don't care. And then we're going to talk about how you can toggle your inbox to show each individual account that you have configured in your mail client. And then we're going to talk a little bit about turning email account features on and off. And then we're going to show you the settings that I use for my account mailbox behavior and how to get there and how to change them and why I have the settings I have. And last but not least, it's going to be a common troubleshooting thing that I use when Apple Mail doesn't seem to be working very well. If it seems really slow, or messages aren't appearing correctly, or if you have trouble finding things that you know are there in the search function, doesn't seem to be working correctly. And that's how to rebuild mailboxes in Apple Mail on the Mac. Okay. Moving right along here. Okay, so some email terms. First one, Apple Mail. When I say Apple Mail, we're talking about a program from Apple that's baked into their various operating systems. So we have Apple Mail for Mac OS. We have Apple Mail for iPad OS. We have Apple Mail for iPhone OS. Subtle differences between them. The main thing to know is that if you're using Apple Mail and you want to make changes, server-based changes to things, you want to be using the Apple Mail program on a desktop or laptop machine. You want to be in Mac OS. The Apple Mail that's deployed to iPhones and the Apple Mail that's deployed to the iPads does not have the same features as the one that's on Mac OS. So Apple Mail is this program that lets you look at several different email accounts at the same time. Okay. Now that's very different from the other most common way that people look at their mail, which is webmail. They're using a web browser to go to, let's say they have an AOL mail. They're using a web browser, Safari, Firefox, Edge, whatever. And they're using that to go to a website, which is run by that company, AOL. And then that website, you click on mail and the web server talks to their email server. That's webmail. Then we have DNS, domain name system. This is a structure that changes internet addresses, which are numbers, to things that are more familiar to human beings. For example, apple.com as opposed to the actual 18-digit internet address for Apple. Then we have SMTP, POP3, and IMAP. Main thing to know about these, they're different ways for mail to be sent and received between email servers and computers that people are at. Okay, and then the last two, ISP, Internet Service Provider, and FRIP, which stands for Free Email Provider. So now you've got your load of acronyms. We're going to move on to our next slide. So add an email account. All right. If you want to add an email account to Apple Mail, what you would do is up on the menu bar, you'd go up to where it says Mail, usually almost always in the upper left-hand corner, and you're going to click on that, and you're going to see one of the choices is Accounts. And when you click on Accounts, you get this dialog box. So you need to know, is the email account that you want to add, is it from Apple? Is it an iCloud account? Or is it from Microsoft, in which case it would be an Exchange server account? Is it a Google Gmail account? All right. Is it for Yahoo or is it for AOL? If it's anything else, chances are you're going to be clicking Other Mail Account. So the steps for doing this is from the Mail menu bar, choose Mail. You see the thing Add Account, you go to Add Account. You then select your email provider from that list you saw in the last screen. Then you click Continue. Then you get a series of dialog boxes that are going to ask you for a variety of stuff. But if it's Google, before you get those questions, they're going to ask you to open a browser to complete the account authentication in your web browser. If it's not Google, they're then going to ask you your name, the email address, and what is the password for that email account. And if you don't know what information to enter, you better be talking to your email provider to get that from them. Because chances are, if you don't know what it is, they're the only ones who will know what it is. Now, if you're doing AOL or Yahoo or AT&T email addresses, the thing to know is that AOL and Yahoo are now owned by a company called Verizon. And Verizon created a holding company for them, which is called Oath. And Oath makes its money by getting data about you and selling it, repackaging it, and selling it to various entities that want to know about you. It's what we call marketing information and metadata information. They don't want you to be using email clients for a couple of reasons. One, if you're using Apple Mail to do your email, they're not going to be able to collect the information that they can package and sell to other people. The second reason they don't want you using Apple Mail is that they want you to use a web browser or their applications to collect your mail, and then they can sell advertising on those web pages. So they're going to make you jump through several flaming hoops to be able to do it. And it can be an incredibly frustrating process. I'll just say that. The steps normally would be for you to sign in using a web browser to that email account, then going to settings, then going to your account security page. Then you have to click on another thing that's going to generate an app password. You have to write that down. Then you have to go to your app from the drop-down menu, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. You click generate, and then they give you differing instructions depending on the phase of the moon and their mood. I've never seen it do the same thing twice. And then when you're finished with all that, you click done, and about 1 out of 4 times, it still doesn't work. And you end up going through this again. So the takeaway from that is, let me go back here a second. Now I'll just stay on what I'm on. So the takeaway from that is, if you're going to use AOL or Yahoo on an Apple device, expect that they're going to make you really work to get it authenticated. All right, so going on to the next item, which is toggling inboxes to show each account. Now, I'm not showing this because it's some profound secret. I'm showing this because 9 times out of 10, the people that I work with did not know what this was. And so what we've got here is over in that sidebar where it says mailboxes, you've got a thing that says inbox. If you're using Apple Mail as a mail client, it's going to show you in one location all of the messages that have come in on those various email accounts. It's one of the benefits of using an email client. You can look at your AOL mail, your Yahoo mail, your Gmail, your Apple Mail, and various other email accounts all at the same time, one combined inbox. But sometimes when you're searching, or sometimes you know what email account something came in, and you don't want to have to scroll through one large combined inbox, if you click on that small triangle that's right next to the inbox symbol, it says inbox, it'll expand, and then it will show you all of the different email accounts that are represented in that inbox, and you can click on the one that you're interested in and then see just the email that came in on that account. You can do the same thing with your junk mail and with your trash and with your sent. If you know you sent a message from a particular email account and you just want to refresh your memory about what you told this person, because obviously their reply indicates they didn't communicate, you didn't communicate, you would click on that little triangle that's next to the paper airplane, next to the word sent, and it would expand and show you all of the different accounts. And when you click on the account you want, then you're only seeing the things that were sent from that account. So just to repeat, toggle inbox to show each account. The inbox gathers together the messages for every email account you've added. If you added more than one account, you can click the disclosure triangle. That's what that little chiclet is called, a disclosure triangle, next to the inbox in the sidebar, and then select a mailbox to see only the messages for that account. Okay, now we're going to move on to turn on and off other account features. Now here, this is something that confuses people. We're working with email accounts to say what we want that account to have access to and what we want to see from it. But we're not in preferences for mail. We're in system preferences in what's called internet accounts. Now here we've got 3, in the example, I've got 3 different accounts. I've got an iCloud account, an Exchange account, and a Gmail account. The Gmail account is currently selected, and we see that if we do Gmail, we can have email services, and we can also have a contact list, addresses, and we can also have calendar services from Google, and we can also have notes that are stored in that. Currently, in this example, only the Mail app is selected. If you click those others, let's say you click contacts. Now, when you bring up your contacts program on your Mac, it's showing you the contacts that you have for your Apple account, your Apple ID, and it'll show you the contacts that you have saved in your Google ID. Conversely, if you click on Exchange Services, you'll find that you can do calendars and you can do contacts, but you can't do notes. It's not offered by Microsoft in all Exchange Services. Some accounts from Microsoft have additional services, some have fewer services. And if we clicked on iCloud, we would have other things than just the contacts, the calendars, and the notes. But the thing that I do is I try to use one set of contacts. In other words, I rely on the ones that are set up for my Apple ID. I turn off contacts from Google. I turn off contacts from AOL. I turn off contacts from Yahoo because I'm lazy. I don't want to have to manage and update and delete 4 different sets of contacts when I can just have one set of contacts. All right, so do you want to have 4 physical address books that you're making changes in every day, or do you just want to have one primary address book that you use for keeping track of people's contact information? Okay, so clicking right around. So how do you get there? You go to the Apple menu, you select System Preferences, and then you click Internet Accounts. You click on the account in the sidebar, and then it shows you what services are available with that email account, and you click on the ones you want, and you uncheck the ones you don't want. All right, now I'm going to move on to account mailbox behaviors. Okay, so in this little window, now we're no longer in Apple's system preferences. We've gone back to the Apple Mail program. I've clicked on Mail in the upper left-hand corner and gone to Preferences, and it gives me this particular display. Now, the small icons that you see in that top line under the word accounts, general accounts, junk mail, fonts and colors, viewing, composing, signatures and rules. These are all the different sets of preferences that you can set. Here we're clicking just on accounts. So if I've selected, in this case, that first account, the icon, it says osgood.bo. Well, the full name is Osgood Bosco at iCloud.com. So that's the email address, and it's an Apple email account. The important stuff is I'm setting the junk mail to erase automatically after 1 week, and I'm setting the deleted mail to erase after 1 month. So you'll see that we've got a junk mail where we tell it where we want it to actually store the junk mail. And under that, we have some words that say erase junk messages, and I have selected after 1 week. I could have it erase them when I quit the program. I can have it erase them after a day, erase it after a week, erase it after a month, or never erase. Now, I don't choose it to do it automatically when I turn off the program, when I quit the program, because that slows the program quitting. If it's got to talk to all these servers, now in this case, there's only 3 email accounts configured. I've got some setups where I've got 10 email accounts configured. So it's talking to 10 different servers. It's erasing junk mail on 10 different servers. It's going to take it a while. It's much better to just set it to either do it after a day or after a week. Now with me, I've got people that send me stuff and it gets into the junk mail by mistake. So I like it in a week. That gives me plenty of time to recover and move something back to the regular inbox if it got put into junk mail by mistake. With deleted messages, I've got it so that they delete it after a month. My thinking is, I delete something, well, what if I change my mind? If I haven't changed my mind in 30 days, I really don't need it and I don't want it, and it's better if it just erases it. Now, these are the settings that are just for that Apple iCloud account. If I clicked on that Exchange account that's directly underneath it, I could set different settings for that account. And for the Osgood, the Gmail account that's below that, I could have different settings for that one. So if it's something like it's a business account, I'm communicating with customers, I may have it where nothing ever gets deleted unless I deliberately override the settings. In other words, I manually delete it because I want to maintain those records for financial purposes. If it's something, it's an account that's just used for chit chat, nothing that's really a reference item would come through, I would have the settings that we have here. Delete my junk mail automatically after a week. So if something's been sitting in junk for a week, it automatically deletes it. And for trash, if something's been sitting in the trash this is the email trash, for a month, it automatically deletes it. Okay, now I'm going to move on to the last one. Rebuild mailboxes in Mail on Mac. Okay. If you have a program that's talking to many different email servers, it has to keep in sync with all those different email servers, and stuff can get messed up. The simplest troubleshooting technique that I've come up with that works most of the time is that if my email program seems to be slowing up, if I'm having trouble finding things, if messages appear to be missing or garbled, the first thing I do is I go to rebuild mailboxes in Apple Mail. The way you do that is you go in the Mail app on your Mac, you select a mailbox in the sidebar, okay? Then you go up to the menu for Mail where it says Mailbox, and at the very bottom, there's a button that says Rebuild. What it's going to do is it's going to interrogate that server and say, okay, what is the stuff that I sent from this? What is the stuff that's sitting in my drafts? What is the stuff that's still sitting in the outbox? And what is the stuff that's sitting in my inbox? Bring all that information back into me and refresh the view that Apple Mail is showing me of my inbox, my sent box, my draft box, my trash, my archive for that email account. Now, you'll want to have it. I find I get the best results if I do them one email account at a time. If you've only got one or two email accounts configured in Apple Mail, then just click on the inbox, go on down and click rebuild. It'll do both of them. But it's going to take a while depending on how many messages you have. Okay, and then very last item, this email address is where you can get support from Apple for Apple Mail issues. And it's support.apple.com/mail. There's a bunch of nifty suggestions up there, a bunch of really nicely done articles about various issues, how to resolve them. And they have a little tool that you can use also. If you've got an email provider that's sort of a rare duck and the Apple program can't automatically seem to connect to them, get you set up properly. You can put in your email address in a box on this web page and press return, and Apple will go out and look at that email server and tell you what those settings should be. This is if you have to manually configure that email account. So it's a great resource to have. And with that, I'm going to say I'm finished with the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing. And now we can go to
Bill,
back to the meeting and questions and answers. Let me get this stuff clicked off. Yes, sir.
first question. My wife has an iPhone and she does most of her emailing from that. If she deletes an email on the iPhone, is it then automatically deleted on the iMac?
Okay, so the first thing to remember is, where does the email reside? In the vast majority of cases, the email is on the email server, which is up in the clouds. Okay, so your iPhone, your Mac, your tablet are always talking to that email server, and they're showing you what's there. If the email account is set up correctly, when she deletes it from her iPhone, it should delete it from the server, which means that if you go to look at it on your Mac or your tablet, it's not going to be there.
Okay.
Okay. That is what's called an IMAP setup. In other words, the emails never reside on the local device. They only reside on the email server, but all of the devices are able to send and receive from that email address. They all have control over it. Okay?
Okay. Allow me a second question.
Sure.
Recently, during all this political infighting and what have you, I've been getting 30, 40, 50 emails a day that, I just automatically delete. I don't even read it. Is there some way that I can block those or tell those people to stop sending me an email or to block their emails or something? I just don't want to see it. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Okay. So the way I handle this personally, so think of yourself as a fellow lemming and you're following me over the cliff. The first thing I'll do is I'll scroll to the very bottom of the email and see if they're following federal law and they have an unsubscribe button down there.
Okay.
Then I'll click on that unsubscribe button that's in the email. It's going to launch a web browser and it should take me to their site where I can opt out of their email. Okay. Now, if they're following federal guidelines, remember, now I'm switched from law to guidelines. They already know your email address. All you got to do is just say, hey, click this button. Don't send me anymore. If they're a spam operation, they're going to have a box for you to put your email address back in. Okay. Which means that now they know this is a valid email address and they can send you more spam. So if they ask for my email address, I just close out the web browser window and say, okay, we're going to go to method number 2. Method number 2 is, if I'm in Apple Mail, I'll go back to that email and instead of deleting it, I'll click on the junk button. In other words, I'm telling my Apple Mail program, this is junk and stuff like it should be treated as junk, which means it doesn't show up in the inbox, it shows up in the junk box. Okay, so you haven't eliminated them, but at least you're not seeing it then. Okay, now there's a third method, which is if junk mail doesn't work, where you can create email rules where it will block them. it'll automatically tell them that you're not there. The problem with that is your spammers they'll send their stuff from a lot of different email addresses. So when you're setting up a rule to block stuff, typically I only use it for country stuff. If I'm getting a lot of emails from Romania, or I'm getting a lot of emails from former Soviet Georgia, I'll just have it that anything from that domain should just automatically be routed to junk. Which means that if somebody in former Soviet Georgia really is sending me a valid email, it's going to go right to junk. That's why I check my junk stuff every so often. Okay. Okay. It's sort of like being at Chuck E. Cheese in front of the gopher thing where you're hit. I don't know, Chuck E. Cheese even exists anymore, but back when I had small kids, they loved to have their birthday parties at Chuck E. Cheese, and I'd be pounding those gophers until it was time to leave. But you never get them all. Okay, George. So
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I have a question.
I'm going to go to George Herzog first.
Okay, Bill, shortly after the last meeting on email, I lost access to all my folders, the worst fear that you had prescribed. I don't know how I got there, but I was comfortable because of some clues that I can't recall that the emails were there. It's just the folders that I assigned under I'm on my Mac were not accessible to me. And I was accumulating a lot of emails in the inbox, like the other George said, and I was reluctant to put those into the folders because I couldn't get back to them. But anyway, make a long story short, I went to Apple tech support, and we went to Time Machine and flipped back until I got the first appearance of the folders, reloaded those, and then went back and checked everything out. And with the exception of a few corruptions of assignments for the last couple of days, I was golden again. You described rebuild. Would that have done the same thing if I had done that for each of my 4 accounts, one which was Yahoo and 3 Gmail accounts?
Okay. I'm going to say no, because you said you were manually moving these into the folders.
Into the ones I had established on my Mac.
Right, which means that you're sort of taking them out of the email system when you're doing that. If it's folders that were set up and that reside on the email server, in other words, they're up there, and I'm just looking, I'm trying to make sure my pencil is pointing up, it doesn't disappear in my backdrop. Then doing a rebuild would bring it all back, because a rebuild says, okay, my Mac is confused. I need to talk to the email server and have it show me what's there. Well, if the folders are on the email server, then it can restore them back to the Mac, no problem. In the same way, with Mac-based folders, you use Time Machine to bring that back. You have the settings and the data, the meta boxes, the M boxes, all this stuff comes in. There's a lot of nitty gritty stuff with email that I just don't want to talk about with normal people. So, with me, I'm somebody who swims in the sea of software and computers that don't work. I'm sort of like the cop on the beat where all he sees is society's failures. So I don't trust any computer technology anymore, which is why I don't use email systems as a filing system. And if it's something important and I want to keep it for future reference, I print it and it goes into a physical file cabinet. I know I'm a Luddite.
I'm assigning folders to on my Mac. I'm not using the email system, am I? It's actually going on my computer.
Correct. So you have the strengths of both and the weakness of both.
I will say this is one where Bill and I differ quite a bit. I don't print anything out, and I'm totally paperless. I mean, I think everybody has to have a perspective they have to be comfortable with. This is Rick talking. I don't have my video on, but
Sure.
I don't use a lot of folders, but I keep it all in my thing, and I just search for it. Like Bill talked, he did talk about that last time too.
Right.
Okay.
And
So
I just do not. I do not print.
Rick, let
print
me
things
ask
out.
you this. How many total emails are in your email system
Oh, it's
on an
big.
average day?
500.
Okay,
Oh.
500. I've had customers that have got more than 14,000 emails in their email system going back to when emails started.
Oh, I'm talking about new emails a day. I'm not talking about how many are back in there in archives.
Oh,
I'm talking
500,
about,
that's nothing. I assume you use rules to sort them out?
no, I used to use a lot of rules. It just got to be more work than it was worth. I do not use a
Okay.
lot of rules. I use SaneBox. SaneBox does a really good job. It's an application that kind of helps me to segregate emails that are of a particular type. So I use
Okay.
SaneBox for that, and it also it does a good job with junk.
Okay, so
So,
you
but that's
don't
how I do
use
it.
any of the Google technology to vet your email and
I
automatically?
don't believe in Google. I don't trust
Okay.
Google. I'm with Google the way you are about some other things. I just
Well,
do not.
I only use Google services when I must. And when I do it with the expectation that I have no privacy and that they're going to monetize anything that I give them.
That's the same way I am.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I had
we have a fundamental difference. I don't use email as a filing system. I print stuff out. Rick uses it, well, as a filing system, and you don't print
Yeah.
anything out?
I don't print anything out unless it's something that I absolutely have to print. But I am not a printer. I have been paperless for years and try to be as paperless as I can. If I have something that I really need to store away in a place that I know that it's always going to be safe, then I'll print it as a PDF and store that somewhere. Like I use Evernote. So if it's a really
Okay.
serious email like tax records, I'll store those. I'll print them as a PDF and store them in Evernote in a folder called tax records for a particular year. But it
Okay.
stores all of them in one folder. But that's the only place I will store it, because I am absolutely, my intent in life is to be paperless.
Okay, so keep in mind the difference of our backgrounds. I was computer support. All I see is the failures. Rick is more of an actual user, productivity oriented. He's more about, we need to get this stuff done as opposed to being belt and suspender. So very different attitudes.
Yep.
And you can't really say that I'm wrong. You can't really say that Rick's wrong because we're doing what we think we need to do and we're comfortable with it. And that's how you should be too.
And I'm kind of halfway between the two because I don't print things out that much, but I am saving them to folders. I'm digitally saving in my computer, so they're at risk if I have a hardware problem or a software problem. But I'm not relying on the email system to protect me.
Yeah. One other thing to add, I'm a GTD guy, getting things done, David Allen guy. So it's like something comes in my head, I immediately pull out a pen, put that thing down on a piece of paper and throw it in the inbox. It's a big physical wooden box that I call my inbox. And that's how I process those. So I'm very much a paper oriented index cards even guy. So, Rick and I are total opposites.
And you've got fire insurance.
I have for stuff that needs to be properly secured, they're in fire rated storage cabinets. Yeah, and they're heavy. You got to have a guy that moves safes move these things around. But there's not a lot of them. I have a very high threshold. If it's reference stuff, it's a very high threshold. I don't keep a lot of stuff. I will keep it only as long as I need it for reference purposes.
May I ask one more follow-up question, then I'll yield?
Okay.
When I trash things, when I delete things, I'm never sure whether I'm deleting them from the ether, from the iCloud, or whether I'm deleting it from my computer. So I'm not too sure.
We're all there. It's problematic. Sometimes I don't know where my data actually is. So for my most secure things, they're on computers that are not connected to the internet. So then I know they can't be anywhere else.
I sometimes do some house cleaning trash just to save some memory, and I'm not too sure I'm really saving any memory when I delete things.
I would say your time is more valuable than the storage space.
Okay.
You know, I just recently put together what's called a NAS, a network attached storage, a homebrew device that I built myself. It's got 10 terabytes of data, 10 terabytes of storage. Okay. I could take everything, every single computer that's in my basement right now, and all of my filing cabinets, and all of my music, and all of my photos, and you name it, books, etc., and not be anywhere near to fill 10 terabytes. I'd be lucky if I could maybe get it up to 4 terabytes of storage. So storage is cheap now. So it's really more a case of was the computer getting loggy because it was getting too full? That's very seldom the case nowadays. It's more a case of, are you better off purging and trashing stuff, using the time for that, as opposed to maybe reading a book or finding some new wine that you like or interacting with your life partner? You know, there's time is the most precious resource we have. Okay.
Hey, Bill, I'd like to make a comment about
Yes,
deleting
sir.
things, from your computer. And this goes to like when you're getting rid of a computer, take the hard drive out of it, because you're not really getting rid of the stuff on your hard drive. You're just getting rid of a pointer to that file, and it can be recovered.
There's also one other thing. If you're getting rid of a computer and it's a Apple computer, Apple device, you want to log into your iCloud.com account and remove that device from the list of devices your Apple ID owns, especially if it's like an iPhone and you plan on selling it to someone else. I mean, that's really bad. I mean, you sell them a phone and they can't use it because it's linked to your Apple ID until you release it. And then something else that Mark brought up, if you remove the hard drive from the computer, you know, assuming it's not a, you know, something where you have to destroy the computer to remove the hard drive, you can still access that information. I can't tell you how many times somebody's brought me, you know, their hard drive that they pulled out of something, and they didn't think they'd ever need the data that was on it. And then they, you know, bring it to me and they say, hey, you know, we need to get information off of this. You know, whether it's a Windows operating system or it's, you know, some legacy stuff from an Amiga, an Atari, a Commodore, you know, whatever, early days of hard drive technology, even floppy disks. You know, there's nothing wrong with taking that hard drive, putting it in an anti-static bag, I would put it in, and then putting it in maybe a plastic bag and putting it in your fire safe for future use. There are ways to completely wipe information and decommission them from hard drives. That there are destructive and non-destructive ways of doing it. Destructive, the neatest thing I ever had was I was working for the federal government and I had an IBM XT computer, and mounted directly on top of the hard drive was an assembly with a couple 45 caliber ACP slugs ready to go. And they would just pound right through that hard drive, making it unreadable. Yes. Yep. Okay. She moved on me. I was going to say, okay, wait a minute. She's moved now. Louise? Wait a minute.
I think she's gone.
Yeah, I think she's gone. Oh, okay. Well, all right. We got
Lenore
about,
left too.
I have a question.
okay. And I didn't spot who it was. So whoever spoke up, you're recognized.
Okay, I
Got it.
recently had a problem with my iPhone email because I have 4 AOL,
Accounts. Yeah.
accounts, but mine with my name would no longer work. And so am having to decide how to reconstruct that so it will work. And I remember maybe a year ago, AOL said, this is what you have to do now, to
Mhm.
rebuild these accounts, but I've forgotten exactly that process. But what you're saying is I can just choose a mailbox to rebuild.
Okay. If we're talking about an iPhone, that's a different Apple Mail program. Okay. Because it's on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay. So the things that you said to me that were relevant, you said AOL, an AOL account, you said iPhone,
Yes.
and you also mentioned about you had gotten an email from them about how you have to maintain security with them now, because they now belong to a company called Oath, which is owned by Verizon. All right. So let me just sort of roll through this real quick. When I have problems with an email account on an iPhone, the easiest way to fix it is to go into the system settings on the iPhone and go to the mail accounts in there and to delete the email account and then set it up again fresh. Okay. Because your email is not on the phone, it's on that email server. It's a different computer that's got it. Your phone just talks to the email server. Now, that's what I would do if it was a Gmail account or it was an Apple iCloud account or a Microsoft account. But you said AOL.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, they've been running, it's not so much AOL, but it's Yahoo and AT&T, because AT&T uses Yahoo to run their email. And I've had a customer who bought a new iPad. Their email worked on the old iPad. It still works on the old iPad, but when they go to set it up on the new iPad, it doesn't work. What she didn't realize is that to do this, you have to be using webmail. Let's say in AOL, you're going to use a web browser to log into AOL.com. You're then going to put in your email address and your password, and then you're going to go to your settings. This is all web settings through the web browser. Okay. And you're going to tell AOL that you want to generate a password so you can use Apple Mail on your iPhone with that account. And then they generate a password, and then you have to put that in as the password for your account on the iPhone instead of the password you normally use.
Okay. Could you just go through that process
What I would recommend strongly, Hap,
Yeah.
is that what you want to do is do this on a web browser and have your phone nearby. And then when the AOL chat thing comes up, click on it and have them walk you through the process. Because every time I do this, they've changed it slightly. So for me to walk you through the process isn't going to get you there.
Okay, so I go to the web.
You fire up your web browser.
Yeah.
Which one do you normally like?
Usually it's it's
Firefox or Google?
no, it's Safari.
Okay, I would use either Firefox or Google to do this. Because Safari will not allow certain pop-ups and various things. So you use Google or Firefox, you
Okay.
put in AOL.com, hit return, and you get onto their web page. And in there, there's going to be a place where you can log in to AOL. And you're going to use your email address as the login, so it's, hapkwood@aol.com or whatever. And then you're going to put in the password that you normally use for that email account.
Log into AOL.
Yeah. Once you're there in the web browser, looking at their email page, over in the upper right-hand corner, you've got where you can get to your email settings.
Right hand.
And what I usually do is I just, rather than try and go and find it, I usually click on the help button that's right up near there, and then put in that I want to use AOL on iPad or use AOL on iPhone. And then they have that screen that I showed you where there's buttons you can press, and it takes you to your account security, your security account settings, account security settings, and then where you go to generate the third-party password.
So
it's just annoying as heck.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I go to the web page, I go into the AOL, I get with the regular passwords, and then I go into the upper right-hand corner.
Right.
And then I do the help button.
Yep.
And then I want to
generate third-party app password.
Generate
third-party app password. I lost a significant amount of time of my life because originally they called it a passcode and they changed it to password. And then when I put in the search for a passcode, all I would get is the, not found page.
Okay.
Until I went and by mistake typed in password, and then I discovered they had changed what they called it. It's like, okay, my life is short enough without wasting time on this stuff.
So I use that passcode.
Yep.
Just for that particular.
Well, what happens then is they give you that passcode, that password.
Yeah.
Then you go to the iPhone, and when you set up the account, you use that passcode instead of your password for the email.
Use that and use that passcode.
And if you sense that I'm really torqued about this, it isn't because I got frustrated. I got torqued because this is what I call computer abuse. They're abusing their customers, making them jump through flaming hoops of fire, and it's all totally unnecessary.
Yeah. Okay. So that I generate that password just to get it on the iPhone.
Correct.
But
so it's like you created a special password that you use to set up the account on the iPhone. Because almost always the iPhone is going to tell you that it's a bad password, or you didn't put in the right password.
Yeah. So then it's automatically there, and I can access my account once it is built.
Correct. But I'll tell you, you go through this. You said you had 3 or 4 different AOL accounts, and some work and some don't.
Only one doesn't work.
Right.
My main one.
Imagine, if you will, I was doing this for a fellow who runs a company, and he set up a different account for different functions in his company using AOL. Actually, it was Yahoo Business. Yeah. Going through that process once is annoying. Going through it 6 times and they change it in the middle of when you're doing it, just when you got your muscle memory working right and you can just, hit the button and away you go. Very annoying.
Yeah, well,
I think Dan Duncan's got his hand up.
Okay, Dan Duncan, you are recognized.
Okay, I don't know what's going on.
Join the club.
I had actually sort of two questions that came up with the lines of questioning. If I set my email to my phone, is there any way to not have to delete it from my phone and not delete it from the server?
You would have to not be using IMAP or POP3. You'd have to be using a standard POP interface for mail. I don't recommend that.
Okay.
Okay.
I was afraid
Because
that was
what
the
that
problem.
would mean is if you wanted to look at email from something else, it would only see the emails still on the server and would not see the ones that were on the iPhone.
Uh-huh, okay. All right, that's sort of what I thought, but I was curious. The other question is, during the break, I was just going to check email, and I'm not sure what I did, but I apparently didn't, well, I lost all the pictures, and I keep getting a message that my browser will not support the speech, but one of them apparently did. And I guess with the double setup or logging on, I couldn't get back the whole pictures and everything. You were doing the presentation.
Yeah.
And I was just sort of confused. So I guess I just messed it up by doing something else during the break.
I wish I could say that it's all your fault. It's driver error, pilot error. But, I've been doing some stuff by mistake too during the presentation. I had some things disappear in that, and that's why I was having to. So I've told myself I got to spend some training time, what I like to refer to as dirt time, DIRT, on how Zoom works and how I can be doing Zoom and be doing something else on the side. Did you get my email about your 2008 iMac?
Yeah.
The most you can take it up to is El Capitan. And some of those services that I mentioned, AOL and Yahoo, do not support email on, Apple Mail at all on El Capitan. You got to be on Sierra or above. Okay, unless you're using a web browser. If you use a web browser and they get to plaster ads all over in the sidebar while you work through mail, they're happy as a clam then. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
if you want to talk about that some more, we can do that later on off channel.
Yeah, I will. I've got several questions to.
Yeah. Would you like some more USB printer cables? I know I brought you 4. I can bring you another 4.
I think I have plenty. Thank you.
You can braid them and make craft work out of them.
I'll work on that.
Okay.
I have some other various cables that I don't use, so we can find some use for those.
Okay, we're down to the last couple minutes of the meeting, folks. So does anybody else have a question that you think I can answer relatively quickly?
Ray's got his hand up.
Oh, all right. Okay, Ray.
Do I have to talk to you? On my new computer, I was having trouble loading something on, or I guess I think we were trying to add something in. Apple was helping me and I was confused. But anyway, when we went into about this computer, and then I went to storage, and it was almost only maybe approximately a half was legitimate things, and the rest of it causing a a traffic stop. But anyway, I'm trying to get this straight. Excuse me, I'm an old man.
Yeah.
It was other that was so filled up with other, you couldn't put
Yeah.
something new in your storage. So they had me actually erase the OS and put it back in new. And
Yep.
then we were able to load anything we wanted to. This also happened a while back with Bill Howe helping me. And he said, well, gee, you should have gotten more memory. And I just couldn't figure that out. And then I did. So is there a way to remove other from your storage without removing everything?
The answer is yes. That's the good part. The bad part is you have to use terminal commands. That's the bad part. I have learned not to prescribe normal people to use terminal commands because they always get something not quite right when they type it.
Yeah, my
Okay.
son-in-law used to do it for me.
I understand. And he could work some real magic. Let me tell you, some of that one script you sent me that he had written, I was going like, wow. There were commands I didn't even know existed in Unix and Linux that he was using.
Yeah. He's a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah. So now that I've said no, you're doomed to always having this stuff full. This is one of the reasons why I've moved to using network addressable storage, a NAS situation. In other words, it's a hard drive that lives on my network that I just throw stuff onto, and I can access it from any of my computers. So I don't worry about how much storage the local computer has. I just save it out on that other thing.
Well, Mr. Herrick, do this. Grab your pencil, write on a piece of paper this this next talk that you're going to give us.
Yeah.
How to do that. And then if Bill Howe is still on board, do I have permission to call you after we're done here?
I think Bill is muted right now.
Okay.
So
yeah, Ray, go ahead. Ray, give me a call anytime you want.
Roger that. Thank you.
Okay. So do I have to buy some more adult beverages for Bill Howe?
No. Ray and I get along quite well on the phone.
Okay.
And if we
yeah,
have
I know.
to, we
I
meet
know.
up at Dorothy Lane Market. So.
Okay. Okay. So we're right at 12:03. Does anyone have one last thing, one bite of the apple?
Mark's
All
got
right.
his hand up.
Okay, I'm going to say Mark Schaefer then, please. Sir.
I gave you a text, Bill. My wife is a pastor. Her Gmail account for part of the church goes to another colleague. She cannot, when she goes into Gmail preferences, she cannot find how to add herself as an additional forwarded recipient. Is Gmail limited to just one forward, or is there a toggle there that she should keep looking for?
Okay, I'm working off of my memory, personal memory, the brain sack up here. If I remember correctly, Google limits you to only one email account that it can forward to. Not all email. So, you could have a situation where this email account forwards it to another email account, and then that account forwards it to a third account. And that's how I've seen some people do collaboration. They basically have the same stuff flowing to all the email accounts, but it's a chain, and usually it doesn't end well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. It's so much simpler to just, reply to all and have a list that somebody sends the email to, distribution lists. There's a reason why God showed us how to create them. All right. So now that Mark has let us out on a slightly negative note, is there any other business we need to finish before we adjourn? And if not, then I'm going to say we are officially adjourned and we will be reconvene. Oh, Kathy Toller.
He's saying bye.
Oh, she's waving bye-bye. Okay, so we'll do this. We'll make the puppet hand. Bye-bye, folks. Okay, thank you all for coming out.